Hello and welcome to a new vlog and ship video in cooperation with ReiseJung. We're taking a look at days 7 and 8 of our first cruise with the Swiss Crown. In the last videos we have visited the Netherlands and Belgium, and in this video we are then leaving the Netherlands and heading on to Germany. In the beginning we are visiting Nijmegen, and shortly after we are leaving the Netherlands, crossing the border into Germany, and our next stop will be Zons, which is a very small but fantastic city, and then we're heading on to Koblenz, which will be the last port of call before reaching Hanau. Every now and then we get questions from our guests when we're sailing from Nijmegen in the direction of Düsseldorf or Cologne if the ship is stopping somewhere overnight, because they assume that the sailing time is too long. But as you can see here on the map, there are a lot of river bends. That's why it actually takes quite a while to get from the Netherlands to, for example, Cologne. But we're starting in the Netherlands in Nijmegen. After a few of our guests left the ship for a walking tour, we started the second excursion, which is a tour in the national park Hoge Veluwe. To get there we are crossing the John Frost Bridge in Arnhem, and we see a bit of the city center of Arnhem before heading out into the nature and reaching the national park Hoge Veluwe. This is a very special national park because it offers a landscape that you would not think is Dutch. It doesn't look like the Netherlands at all. It has a very special heath landscape that you can rarely see in the Netherlands, but in the Hoge Veluwe you can see a lot of it. So that's why it's a very special landscape, and it's also quite special excursion, as it is an excursion intended for passengers that are not able to walk longer distances, but they still want to see something. So with this excursion you can already see a lot of the landscape from the bus, so it's a very easy excursion. But of course, if you want to walk or even do some sports, that's also possible in a national park. Here you can see the typical landscape, and we are now approaching the point where we're taking a break of around 1 hour, and the guests can decide whether they want to stay somewhere near the bus in a cafe, for example, visit a museum without walking that much, or they can join a small hike through the nature, or they can even rent a bike for free in the national park and make a little bike tour. So there's something for everybody. The last 2 times we decided to take the bike. This time we decided to visit the museum, which gives you an impression of what happens underground, nature-wise, and then we started a little hike through the nature. Unfortunately, it was starting to rain pretty heavily, so that was not ideal. The landscape looks much better with sun. Then you also get the impression that you are somewhere in Africa, a bit better than with cold weather and rain. But still, it was very, very nice. And compared to the last time we visited, it was also pretty green, so the nature was looking much more beautiful. Later on, we continued with our bus, and the excursion is not coming to an end yet because we still have a panoramic drive through the national park to get to a castle, the hunting castle St. Hubertus, which we can see here. It's a very, very beautiful castle. Unfortunately, the weather was still pretty bad, so it doesn't look that nice. It looks much better with better weather, of course. And after seeing the castle, we were then continuing, heading back to the ship in Nijmegen. To get there, we're crossing the river Nederrhein in Arnhem, and then we're crossing the Waal in Nijmegen. This time we will not see something from Nijmegen, as a former colleague of mine was visiting who lives nearby, so I didn't leave the ship after returning. And in the afternoon we were then leaving Nijmegen, sailing back into Germany. And to get to Germany we have to sail past another special landscape, where you have a high chance to see some wild horses, some conic horses, and we were actually very lucky as we saw a lot of them, even more than usual. Sometimes you don't see them at all, but that you see a herd of horses this big is pretty rare, so we were very lucky. In the evening I then enjoyed another fantastic dinner, and this time I went for the easy option, for the local dish, because I really love frikandels, and after that another relaxed day is coming to an end. On day 8, we already woke up in the beautiful city of Zons. Zons is a tiny city. The whole city is within a size of 250 by 300 meters within its city wall, and it is a preserved medieval city. It is very interesting, but rarely visited by cruise ships, and there are not even that much tourists at all. It's still a hidden gem, but it really shows how life was in Germany a few hundred years ago. And we had a very nice walking tour that I joined, learned a lot of interesting facts about the city, and what I really liked was that our tour guide was so happy to have a cruise ship docking in Zons and having so many people on board being interested in her city, and she said that it was actually the first time for her guiding a group from a cruise ship through Zons. That shows how special it is to dock here. There are just a handful of other cruise operators stopping there, and according to our guide, they are just stopping there so that their passengers can go in a bus and continue on to Cologne just to save a bit of time, but they are completely missing the beautiful gem that Zons is. Of course, it's just small, so half a day is more than enough to see all the sights and historic buildings. So now it's time to head back on board and continue on, also in the direction of Cologne, but we are not stopping in Cologne, we are continuing on all the way to Koblenz, where we are arriving in the night. But of course, sailing past Cologne is also very interesting and a small highlight, especially seeing the Cathedral of Cologne and the Hohenzollern Bridge. But there was also a very special ship. Here we can see the beautiful ship called Antonio Bellucci, and with this ship we're cruising through the Netherlands in the next year. So end of April, beginning of May 2027, we're going to the IJsselmeer, to the Waddenzee, and also to the big cities like Amsterdam and Rotterdam. Later that day it was then time for another jazz concert on board. As we were sailing the whole afternoon, there was some time to enjoy a bit of music, so there was another jazz concert live on board. In the evening it was then time for another nice dinner. This time I didn't go for an Asian or an easy option, but I went for the duck breast, which is of course fine dining, but it was fantastic again. Later on there was the big Swiss crown tombola, and we were sailing past Remagen with the famous bridge of Remagen, continuing on to Koblenz, where we arrived in the night. That's it for days 7 and 8. Here you can see when the next video will be uploaded with the last 2 days on board, and the name of the song as always. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to comment, like, subscribe or share the video link, and hope to see you in my next video or maybe one day on board. More information on our cruises can be found on reisejung.de.